There's wisdom in being a fool, and here's why. What's good, everybody? It's Vaughn, and this is where you get that knowledge that you don't get in college. So go ahead and scroll into the description, click the link next to Weeble, and collect your 12 free stocks. If you're the smartest one in the room and you're not being compensated for it, then you're in the wrong room. Many times people think that there's a problem with not knowing what they don't know, and they're afraid to ask questions because of it. And that just creates a barrier that needs to be broken if a person wants to grow and develop as an individual. There's 4 stages of competence: unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and an unconscious competence. When you're unconsciously incompetent about something, that means that you have no idea that you don't know what you don't know. But then you get to a stage where you're consciously incompetent, and that means that you're aware of something but you don't have an idea of how it works. But the fact that you now know about it, you're in a position where you can gain an understanding of how to figure it out. And then there's conscious competence. That means you're aware of it and you figured it out, but you haven't completed the task so many times that it's ingrained in your unconscious mind. And then there's unconscious competence, and at this point you're basically an expert because it's ingrained in your unconscious mind and you can do it without even having to think about it. Whenever you're learning something new, you're usually going to start off at the bottom, unconsciously incompetent. But as you continue to immerse yourself in new information and put yourself in situations where you're going through simulations so that you can gain a better understanding, you'll gradually elevate towards the unconscious competent side of the spectrum. This is exactly what I experienced when I moved to Jamaica and I decided to build this house. I had never built a house before, and there were so many things that I was unaware that I didn't understand. And throughout the process of me seeing things and learning through osmosis and asking questions, I have gained a much better understanding when it comes to construction, whether it be plumbing, electrical, tiling, masonry work, you name it. I have learned so much that I didn't even understand prior to me taking on this project. I've wanted to invest in real estate for quite some time now, but there's only so much that you can learn from books. There's a reason why they say experience is the best teacher. There's a short video by Jordan Peterson that I would like to share with you because he has an interesting perspective when it comes to this topic.
Well, there isn't any difference between the fool and someone who's courageous, right, from an archetypal perspective. Abraham is a fool, obviously, when he starts his adventures. I mean, the story lays it out in that manner. He's far too old to be leaving home, for example. He's a late bloomer, and then he has a lot of catastrophic adventures along the way. And certainly you could imagine that had you encountered him when he first encountered the famine in the land of strangers, when he first went out, the idea that he had followed his misguided intuitions would have been self-evident. But in the Abrahamic stories, there is this call to get out and do. And that's it. And the thing is that one of the things I've learned, to make it concretely, is that I've done a lot of different things in my life. And every time I did a new thing, I was a fool. I did it badly. I was an imposter, right? Because when you first start to do something, you don't know what you're doing. But that's okay. That's an acceptance of your vulnerability, right? And your ignorance. That's humility in some sense. The willingness to be a fool in the land of strangers. That's it. The willingness to be a fool in the land of strangers. And that's an act of courage, because you also reveal your vulnerability to the world by stumbling around. But as long as you're stumbling forward, then you're going to move forward. Now, how do you do that more concretely? You aim at an ideal, right? And you aim at an ideal that's beyond you. Now, maybe you don't aim to begin with at an ideal that's so beyond you that you're crushed by its magnificence, Maybe that's too demotivating to move you. But you could at least conceptualize yourself as the you that you are with fewer of the faults that you know of. And that's a good start. And I also think that's associated with the idea of humility. Take stock. Figure out how it is that you're not who you could be. And then move in that direction. And accept the consequences. You're going to get slapped a lot. But maybe with each slap, you'll straighten up a little bit. Especially if you listen, even to the people who are slapping you. Because sometimes they're the ones who can reveal for you very quickly where it is that you're weak and insufficient so that you won't have to be that way in the future.
As you can see, there's nothing wrong with being the fool. The problem occurs when you don't understand something, but you act as though you do because you're afraid to look stupid. Because when you think that you're going to look stupid, you actually look stupid because you're missing out on information that could change the trajectory of your life.
It's important to understand that you have to fail in order to prevail. Each failure comes with a lesson that is really a blessing. So if you fail fast, then the problems won't last. They will just be a part of the past.
Here's an interesting video by Simon Sinek that I'd also like to share with you.
The reality is, I'm an idiot. And I'm not being flip about it. I don't understand very complicated things. And so I ask a lot of questions so that the person who's telling me something complicated, who's talking in terms as if I understand them, finance or neuroscience, I don't know what you're talking about. And I ask enough questions just so that I understand it. So is what you're saying this? No, that's not what I'm saying. Well, what are you? So I'll give you a perfect example. So a long time ago, I had a client. They were a public company, and they brought me on to do some work for them. But they invited me to sit in on a meeting from the consultant that they had hired. And so all the C-level executives and me. And this consultant was giving a presentation about something or other.
This is junior marketing.
This is when I had my little marketing company. And all the C-level executives sitting there nodding and taking notes on the PowerPoint that they had printed up in front of them. And I had it as well, and I didn't understand a frickin' word of it. Right? I was like looking around like, and so I'd raise my hand and say, I'm really, really sorry. I know I'm the only person in this room without an MBA, but this doesn't make sense. Like you say A plus B equals C, but based on your logic, A plus B equals D. Can you just say it again, please? I'm really sorry to slow the meeting down, everybody. And you could see the consultant getting frustrated with me and would try and explain it again. I said, I'm so sorry. And one by one, all the C-level executives said, yeah, I don't understand it either. Now, if the idiot hadn't spoken up and said, I don't understand, they all would have nodded their heads. For fear of looking stupid, because they didn't understand. And they would have paid a lot of money for a document they didn't understand, and they would never have used it and would have sat on a shelf. And it's because I'm okay being the idiot. That's why I'm not being flip. I'm okay everybody in the room going, because I have to ask questions until I understand it. But the reality is once I can get to the point where I understand it, I can get it so simple that I understand it, and I can say it in simple terms. That means other people understand it too. So there's a lot of value being the idiot.
You see, a fool thinks himself to be wise, but a wise man knows himself to be a fool. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and give me the thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so that you're notified every time I make a new post. Until next time.